In the past week, we have witnessed two tragic incidents. Actually, within the past 2 weeks, we've witnessed three tragic incidents, one hitting close to home for me, which I won't get into right now. But as far as the two tragic incidents that happened in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio, we have to pause, even in times like this, to remember those who actually were willing to sacrifice their lives. And there are a lot of individuals who have been recognized, to be fair, particularly those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in order to save their friends, family, and offspring. However, given a channel like this, I want to take the time to briefly recognize two individuals, particularly thanking brothers. I'm giving them the moniker because the actions that they took helped in saving an untold number of lives. And specifically, this pertains to the shooting in El Paso, Texas, where two brothers, and I don't say that word loosely, but in this day, I'm going to use that term proudly, that two brothers went in and did what they could in order to prevent the shooter from causing more casualties or saving the lives of standbyers. Now, the first story we have is a hero survivor El Paso massacre reveals how he was shot and wounded after throwing bottles to distract the gunman before his life was saved by a CBP officer. And for all of you who don't know what CBP means, that just means U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So remember, this is in El Paso, Texas, right on the border between the two nations. A heroic El Paso shooting survivor has revealed how he was shot and wounded after throwing soda bottles at the gunman in an effort to distract him. Christopher Grant was shopping at the Walmart where suspected gunman, we won't even say his name, opened fire on Saturday, killing 22 people, and saw the shooter targeting Hispanic people while letting white and black customers go by. Which I'm going to say something about that in a bit, but I'll continue reading this article. After shielding his fellow shoppers by turning the gunman's attention to him, his own life was saved by a CBP officer, Donna Stifford, who took him to safety and had him sent to the hospital. She was like my guardian angel, he told CNN from his hospital bed, where he is recovering. Grant, 50, said he had rushed towards his mother when he heard gunshots at the sprawling shopping complex. His mother usually carries a Smith & Wesson firearm, but had left it behind because we're just going to Walmart, he discovered. It was chaos, and I saw him, the gunman, standing in the parking lot, and I saw him popping people off, he recounted. I was inside the produce department, which is right beside the front door, and I saw him popping people off, and I was like, this is crazy. To deter him, I started just chucking bottles. I started throwing random bottles at him. I'm not a baseball player, so one went this way and one went that way, and then one went right towards him, and that's when he saw me. I ducked, and he just started firing rounds off at me. When I got hit, it was like somebody put a hand grenade in your back and pulled the pin. That's basically what it felt like. The story goes on to describe how he was able to get out of the incident and how the CBP officer, Donna Stifford, came in and basically stood by his side while the officers and all other agents neutralized the scenario. And shout out to Donna Stifford as well, a strong, independent woman, and what some of you, especially my SYSBN allies, would call a good Stargate for helping the fellow brother when he did his part in order to distract the gunman from taking additional lives. If you want to read the rest of the story, the link is in the description below, but he wasn't alone in attempting to save the lives of multiple individuals. The second story we have is an Army veteran hailed as a hero after braving gunfire during El Paso Walmart massacre to carry out crying children. An Army veteran who reportedly rescued several children from the El Paso, Texas mass shooting on Saturday is being hailed as a hero on social media. U.S. Army Specialist Glendon Oakley told reporters he was shopping at a sporting goods store inside the Cielo Vista Mall in West El Paso when the gunman opened fire inside a nearby Walmart. Oakley's social media pages indicated that he is a retired U.S. Army veteran from Killeen, Texas, a city located in the center of the state about 582 miles east of El Paso. Oakley told an MSNBC reporter that a child came into the sporting goods store where he and others were shopping and said there was an active shooter. Me and the guy that works there were like, he's kid, so we didn't believe him. Oakley said, I walked out of the mall to go to Foot Locker. I hear bop bop. After hearing the gunshots, Oakley said he drew the handgun, which he was licensed to carry, before looking for a place to hide. Then he noticed a bunch of people fleeing from a nearby Foot Locker store. They just dipped, so I ran with them. I just tried to make my way to the parking lot, Oakley said. On his way out, however, the military veteran saw a group of panicking children who were running around inside the shopping plaza, unsure of what to do. Their parents were nowhere in sight, he said. I got my bag in my hand. I'm trying to pick them up, as many as I can, just run out, Oakley said. But they're so anxious, they're like jumping out of my hands. Oakley said he managed to shuffle at least a few of the children out of the shopping center. When he emerged in the parking lot, Oakley said that he was confronted by an on-scene officer who wasn't sure if Oakley, who was armed, was a potential victim or if he was a shooter who hadn't yet been identified. When I got out, I guess one of those cops thought I was a shooter or something, Oakley said, so I had to show him my clip and stuff, show him I had my license to carry. He said I was fine. Oakley, who was physically shaken while being interviewed in the immediate after the shooting, said his own life wasn't his main concern when the gunshots rang out. I was just so worried about those kids, man. I was just worried about those kids. I wasn't really worried about myself. I just hope those kids are alright. Many on social media commended Oakley for his apparent bravery during the deadly rampage. You can read the rest of the story there with the link below as well. Props to Daily Mail for providing both of those stories, something which I did not read in any of the American mainstream news sites, and I wonder why, but that's besides the point. I just want to give these dudes the shine that they deserve, which leads me to a couple of observations. Now, El Paso is a predominantly Latino city. That's just what it is, being beside the border. But you do have a lot of individuals, particularly a lot of white and black individuals stationed there, mainly due to the fact that it is an army town. And notice how the shooter, which I will talk about in the next video, went after mainly Latino individuals, whether Mexican Americans, Mexican nationals, it didn't matter. The shooter, who I will not reveal the name of, his intention, I'll just give you the brief summary of this. He actually wrote a manifesto in which he was scared shitless of the Mexicanization of America and especially Texas. Now, for all of you who've been following me, I, until recently, lived in Salt Lake City, Utah, which, yeah, it isn't Texas, but it is still the West nonetheless. And throughout my observations, a lot of the prejudices that were displayed in that part of the country, places like Utah, Arizona, West Texas, even Nevada and California to an extent, a lot of that wasn't really aimed towards blacks per se. It was actually towards Latinos. So in a way, I'm not surprised that something like this happened specifically to Latino Americans in this part of the country. But nonetheless, we have to give the shout out that these brothers deserve in order to recognize good in the world just in general and good black men, because if we don't do it, no one else will. At least not in the greater United States. I mean, I got this source all from the Daily Mail, which is a British tabloid website. So on another point, look at how America treats you and wants to view you as versus the rest of the world outside of it. I'll let individuals who have traveled fastly like the Grinch God, C Boogie, Solo TV84, Kirigakure Jones, and others who really know what it's like outside the Matrix get into more details about that. Everyone else out there, always bet on X.